Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have with me a microphone. So if you could please let me know in the comments if you can comfortably hear me, and I won't be straining my voice. Um, the first thing is to let everybody know we've got a new 30-day challenge starting. So you can go to richardgrannon.com and you can sign up to the challenge there now. And we will be beginning the challenge on Saturday, the 2nd of July. Pink Moon says yes. Thank you, Pink Moon. AJ Wallen says sounds good. Xena O says yes. Me says yes. Visceral, yeah. Hey, oh, ha. Apparently it's good. Okay, that's wonderful. Here's the mic. I'm holding it in my hand. See how long that lasts. Before my bicep hurts. Isn't that pitiful? You go to the gym and you do all the weights and stuff and you lift up the heavy things, but you can't hold things statically for very long because your muscle is heavy. I weigh too much as a human to do things. So yeah, 30-day challenge. This is it's the same one that we ran in January. If you were on the one in January and you got good results from that, please post a comment below this video and just let people know that you enjoyed it and that you got something from it. More importantly, was that, I like it when people have a nice time, but lasting change in your life is the outcome we're going for. So if you're on the 30-day challenge in January and you got something from that, please do let people know in the comments below this video. That would be enormously helpful. You can't get it from spartanlifecoach.com. You must go to richardgrannon.com. The price is set low to begin with, as it was last time, and then it will go up. And then I think we stop on Friday. You won't be able to get access after Friday. And then we actually begin the first day of the challenge on Saturday. As last time, what I recommend everybody does, even if you're not going to do the challenge, is if you head on over to Fortress Mental Health Protection System, whether you're doing the challenge or not, if you're interested in overcoming codependency and CPTSD type issues, it's well worth going through the free tutorials over on Fortress Mental Health Protection System, which is the alternative YouTube channel. I'm really looking forward to getting this challenge done. I've been working a lot recently. I know it sounds crazy to say I'm looking forward to working because I just stopped working, but it's a different kind of work. So I'm looking forward to this. So I managed to clear my desk, which takes a bit of effort to get this started. And we'll be working together from Saturday. Rules are pretty simple. Inside of the community area, it's not Facebook, it's not Instagram. The rules are simple and brutal and savagely enforced. You may post your work. You may ask questions pertinent to the exercises, and you can offer support to other people. And that's it. Can I swear? No. Can I tell extremely graphic stories of childhood trauma or hideous things I saw on the television? No. Can I describe abusing drugs? No. Can I swear? No. Can I mention politics? No. Can I talk about sex? No. Can I post pictures of my dog? No. Can I post pictures of myself topless? No. These are all things that people have done and probably will continue trying to do. It's a moderated forum. We have myself and two other mods. It went pretty well last time. There wasn't really too much trouble, but those are the forum rules. When you join, there's only one post in the community area and one post in the instructional area. Daily from Saturday, you will get new video updates every day. People on the last 30-day challenge know how this works. So on day one, you get your day one video and your day one exercise, and then you watch it and you do the exercise. Then you head over to the community section and you share your exercise. Now you can either do it by typing it out in the community section, or you can share a picture of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is that. Jennifer Schlossberg. Jennifer Schlossberg says, "So no topless." No, no topless. Thamar Pass says, "Bye, bye, goodbye, my lover." UG Rose says, damn, no feet pics. Be good. Yeah, no feet pics in this one. Maybe next one. Is it the same as the last one? Yes. The exercises, the tutorials, the videos are the same as the last one. It's not new in terms of content. If you did the last one and you made some headway with it and you got something from it, I highly suggest you do it again, but only if realistically you've got to be looking at giving up 20 to 40 minutes of your life every day for about 30 days. So if you can't commit to that, then there's probably not much point. Water Bottle asks, will the videos be the same ones or new? This is the same content as the last one. We're going to focus on codependency, overcoming codependency, and overcoming narcissistic abuse specifically with this one. G Spatula says, having a community will be more motivating. Yes. And the psychological studies, the research, the peer-reviewed research backs this up. So if you know that you are going to be accountable to a community, even if you can't see them, or you never meet them, or you don't know who they are, or they don't know who you are, you're way, way, way more likely to do the work. Because you might have a moment, we all have moments where you'd be like, I don't feel like doing this today. I don't want to do this. I could not. Who's it going to hurt? Who's going to know? But if you have a community to answer to, that little bit of an extra accountability will be the thing that makes you go, okay, I'll just do it. I'll just get the exercises done. So that's it, folks. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm here now. Ask questions on anything at all. You can ask about the 30-day challenge, or you can ask a question about anything. Water Bottle says, any suggestion for what to focus on if it's your second time? I suggest focusing on overcoming codependency. Even if that's what you focused on last time, just focus on overcoming codependency, because you probably didn't overcome codependency after the last one. It's unlikely that you did from a single 30-day challenge. So if you do it again, you've got a better chance of getting it this time. You choose all the exercises. I give you the exercises to do daily. How do we join? Facebook, YouTube, website? Go to richardgrannon.com. Go to richardgrannon.com. You won't get it on spartanlifecoach.com. Everything is on richardgrannon.com now. Please answer them. What's your opinion of Justin Trudeau? Justin Trudeau, I think very important business, funny little doll-headed Nazi. Can you suggest anything for the grieving deaths of a father? Grieving is not really my field of speciality. Grieving is a skill. It's a specific area of therapy. What I would recommend is seeking out a psychotherapist, counselor, or a coach who does specialize in grieving and having a talk to them so that they can guide you through the process. It is a process. Sadly, I, like many of you watching, have had to grieve the deaths of friends and family, quite a number in the last 10 years, unfortunately. Such is life. It's a skill. It's a skill. But it would be good to have somebody with you who knows what to expect, who can guide you and gently help you through that process. Hunter Thompson says, doesn't even read the live chat. This is Bat Country. Black Sea. I did the last one, but inconsistently. I might focus on finally doing part 2 of Summoning the Self. Good idea. Which brings better results for codependency? Not a course, my dear, not a course, but you. You bring the results for codependency. So if you think that realistically you're going to commit to part 2 of Summoning the Self and the entire Summoning the Self course and all of its exercises on your own, then save your money and just do it on your own. If you think it's not realistic and you'd be better off with some accountability, then join the group. But if you don't need it, then there's really no point joining unless you feel like you need it. Any plans to travel to Asia? Asks Trish. Yes. Whether that would realistically happen this year or not, I don't know. My book is coming out in the middle of August, and I have work in Florida at the end of October. So probably September, October, I'd be in America. I'd like to get 6 of the major cities in America and do some seminars there. And then perhaps after that, I would return to Asia. What part of Florida? Asks Chelsea. Um, I would like to go to Miami, but I don't think it's in Miami. I think it's in Orlando. I may go to Miami anyway. People say they don't like Miami. I don't care. I like Miami. It's cool. Stacy Tucker. Did you say that this course can benefit those that have been through narcissistic abusive relationships? Yes, but that's only half of the focus of the course. The other half is focused on trying to help you overcome codependency, either the codependency that was latent before the narcissistically abusive relationship, or the codependency that the narcissistically abusive relationship would inevitably breed in you. So it's half. It's trying to do half overcoming narcissistic abuse, half overcoming the codependency that caused or was left by the narcissistic abuse. Again, before people ask me, that course is only available from richardgrannon.com, GRANNON.com. Visceral Gravitas is here. Please follow him on YouTube. Got some good videos. Same Zoom Q&As in the next 30-day challenge. Yeah, I think unless people really need it, I would probably do one a week, the same as the last one. Didn't you say this last one was way harder on people than you anticipated? It was much, much harder. The preparation wasn't, the attitude within which people went into it was codependent. So with this one, before we start, I'll stop that from happening. And basically, all that entails, there's no mystery. That sounds very ominous, like I'll prepare them. I'm going to say to people, look, it's not an exam. I'm not a teacher. You can't get this wrong. I'm not your dad. I'm not judging you. You're you, the person who is engaged in the course. You're an adult and you're in charge. I'm going to pressure you and I'm going to say, do this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, I'm just a little face on a screen. And if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. So I'm really going to, at the front end, enforce the notion, because it's codependency, isn't it? People go in a codependent way. And then they start, the boundaries blur internally, because most codependents have really poor internal boundaries between their emotion and their intellect. So the emotions bleed over into their reasoning. So they engage in emotional reasoning, which then creates logical fallacy, cognitive biases. And then they start to lose perspective and context. So I'll be saying, no, you're here to use me and you're here to use the community with respect and compassion for the other people who are there, of course. And obviously with a degree of respect for me as a, as a human being, I hope. But fundamentally, you're there to use the course, not have the course use you. It's a challenge. It's not an exam. It's challenging for you as much as you choose to make it challenging for you. And that's it. The level of, not everyone, but maybe like 25% of people got way more stressed out than they really needed to over it. Because the other thing, we call it the 30-day challenge, but as you know, Visceral Gravitas, we give people access to the material and we actually give people 60 days. So if people literally need to take twice as long, they can. So reduce the urgency, reduce the sense of people feeling like it's a test or they're being examined, and just remind them you're an adult. It's only an online course. It's just a silly online course. It can be really, really helpful if you engage in it. I would like you to engage in it, and I'd like you to get better. If you don't, or you don't like an exercise and you don't want to do it, just don't do it. So that's the easiest way of making it easier, I think, is that perception shift. Ben Forster asks, when one partner has depression and the other has anxiety, is a relationship set to fail? What do you expect my answer to be here, Ben? Will it be binary? Yes, absolutely. Your relationship is doomed. It's finished. Move out. Or am I going to say, no, don't worry, everything's going to be fine? Or do you think I'm more likely to say, it depends? It's not, these aren't chemical equations. This isn't mathematics that we're doing here. We can't say X plus Y equals Z. These are human beings. It's a human experience. It's subjective. It's messy. You've told me one has depression and the other has anxiety. I might interview the two people and decide that's not really a problem. It's something else altogether. So I really couldn't say. Anybody who told you from what you've just said that they could would be lying. Go to couples therapy. If you're in a relationship and these are the problems, go to couples therapy together. If you both go in good faith, with humility, with the intention to heal the wounds in the relationship and to build greater intimacy, you will probably have a degree of success, and it will be time well spent. I'm catching up to the latest questions now. Richard should write a novel, says Sigmund Freud. Richard will write a novel. He regrets not writing a novel first, but starting with something factual. But that's what they tell novelists to do. Start with something factual. So it's done now. Damien Lopez says, yep, we got a spammer. We have a couple of mods here. UG Rose is a mod here. Tarantila is a mod here. And Potent is a mod here. If I see them, I will hit them with the ban hammer. Is it possible for someone with codependency to create narcissistic behaviors in their partner? I found myself in recent months getting really vexed over these definitions and people's attachment to psychology definitions. And I was like, right, it's my job to educate people about psychology definitions and let them know that these are not hard categories from science. This is not a virus, it's a description. And then I was like, bro, nobody really cares about that. They just want to say what they want to say and they want to think what they want to think. And I was like, oh, okay, I should probably calm down. And then I started meditating again. My days, fam. You got to get on that meditation vibe. It's so good. It's so good. I'm gonna start doing meditation sessions over on the Richard Grannon Philosophy channel once this 30-day challenge is over. God damn, that helps. It just helps to have your mind STFU for a while. So here we go, Ariona, to your question. How can I put this in a way that would most help you and help other people? So these I know what you're doing, and I did it for years, mate. It's really tough. You're in chaos, and you get like. I think my frustration is not that the online narcissistic abuse world narcissistically abuses people. It doesn't, but it feeds an element of narcissistic abuse, which is called gaslighting. And you're being breadcrumbed with the idea that you can find order through YouTube videos or Facebook communities or YouTube gurus or whatever, and it's super unlikely. These terms you've mixed, so I'm sorry to be, nobody enjoys this except me, but to be pedantic, you've mixed a non-clinical term with a clinical term. It's not your fault. Everybody does this, including me, but it doesn't work the way that you think it does. So I know you're looking for order. I know that you're like most people are like, give me something, give me order in this chaos. And psychology pretends that it can do that, and it's a terrible crime, because in many instances, not all, but in many instances it can't. So you've said like codependency, and you've expressed the question, and you're not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. As though codependency is the stable, uncontested concept. Like it's synonymous with being an empath, or it's synonymous with being the victim of narcissistic abuse, or through the fault of people like me. I've confused people over the years because I'm no brain box, but I have an academic background, and I was trained how to think about this. And when I spoke as though the people I was speaking to could put that in context, and they didn't. They took everything very literally. Codependent is not a clinical term. By the strictest definitions of codependency that are there in the mainstream, a narcissist is a codependent. Their sense of self is entirely dependent on the other, as it is in codependency, as it would be in codependency. It's like a definition of codependency. Your whole sense of self is derived from other. We're seeking to get validation and reactions from other. Our entire locus of control is external. And you'd say, well, that's not a narcissist. Yes, it is. People with narcissistic personality disorder have an entirely external locus of control. So, dude, I know, I've seen the videos. I've even made videos that imply this in the past, and I deeply regret it. It's not a spectrum that goes narcissist, psychopath, borderline, victim, CPTSD, codependent, empath. It's not a dichotomy. Everyone who has cluster B personality disorder would be on a spectrum for codependency. Everyone who has a cluster B personality disorder has CPTSD. These are complex post-traumatic stress responses that you're seeing, and they're backed by emotional flashbacks, toxic superego, and all the things that create CPTSD. So the way that you phrase the question is kind of like, I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying, but it would be so intellectually dishonest of me to answer this question to you and then to other people who watch this afterwards, as though there is this model that we're working from that works like that, and there isn't. There isn't. So someone with codependency who has an entirely externalized locus of control, perhaps they do have a clinical issue. The clinical issue they would have would be dependent personality disorder. Maybe they do have that. Maybe what they have is subclinical, and it's not that. Originally, codependent is a term from Alcoholics Anonymous. So some people would say to me, and have said to me, you shouldn't be using the term codependent when you're not talking about drugs and alcohol. And I'm like, it's too late now. Like it's already out there. If so, this question is like the balancing question. So again, Ariona, you're trying to find order. Good for you. Good for you. We need order in this chaos. So you're asking, well, if there's yin and there's yang, and there are a dichotomy and a polarity, one is giving, one is taking, one is fawning, one is abusing, wouldn't the fawn responder be creating the abuse? So it would be in Tai Chi, or with the yin yang principle. If I'm in contact with you in combat and I become yin, the feminine principle, I draw you into yang. So I can force you to be yang if I go yin. So I force you to push and to drive and attack me if I become defensive and move backwards, which is kind of what you're asking. It's a balanced yin yang polarity question. But these are not polarity terms, my friend. They're really not. Someone with codependency, will they have narcissistic traits? Anecdotally, in my humble experience, 9 times out of 10, yes. Can we create narcissistic behaviors in anyone? like, how loosely do you want to use the term narcissism? Emotionally abusive, exploitative? Sure. Maybe narcissism should go back in the box a little bit for a little while and take a breather. Maybe don't use it so much. Emotionally abusive, exploitative. If you refuse to say no to somebody, let's phrase this another way. Is it possible that if I refuse to say no to somebody, that they will spread their wings in terms of being cocky and exploitative and abusive? Yes. The answer to your question would be yes. Sorry I took so long on that question, guys, but it's a great question. It's super important and it's very pertinent to this channel. Marisela Torres. Hola, Marisela Torres. Buenas noches, Marisela Torres. Yo voy a responder a tu pregunta. Ahora mismo, I really want to be a Spanish voiceover guy. That was like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a Portuguese voiceover guy because they sounded so cool. Superboc, cerveja do Portugal. I'll be like that. Wow, that is cool, man. Cadoc, festa de espuma. He didn't ask for any of this. Let's go. Noun. What are you doing, Marcella? Gases. Noun. Sorry. Noun, excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. ¿Qué es eso? Marisela, ¿qué haces? Y aquí, ¿dónde está la pregunta? ¿Dónde está? Non-excessive emotional or reliance on a partner. No entiendo. Perdón, lo siento, pero no entiendo nada que te has dicho. No entiendo nada. Nada ni nada. Sorry, I don't get it. Folks, maybe the thing to do, I usually say this. I didn't say it tonight. Sorry. Have your question end in a question mark. Before you hit send, just mutter it out loud and under your breath. So you go, Maggie Smith, thanks for sharing your insight. Your translation of how some people use it the wrong way is very helpful to me. Something like that. Jonathan Clayton, I love your Spanish. Me too. But not the Spanish. Maricela is here. She's laughing at me. Did you like my Spanish? ¿Te has gustado mi español? Que yo puedo hablar muy bien now. It's the definition. It's the definition of. Ask me in Spanish. Solamente puse la definición. Huh? Well, you've given me a laugh. I don't get it. Sorry, mate. Lo siento. Inténtalo otra vez. Voy a intentar otra vez. Just write it in Spanish. Damian Lopez says, your Spanish es increíble. Es muy bien. Me ha gustado. See, I won't stop now. I've gone silly. Right. Jonathan Clayton sounds half Scouser. A Scouse Spaniard. Buenos dias. You friggin' zivvy. Do you speak Portuguese too, lad? I do, lad. I learned Portuguese when I was a little kid and I used to live in the Algarve and I learned that before I learned Espanol. Então, não é possível falar em português porque quando hablar em português, voy a hablar en español. Because it's too similar inside my brain. I got to practice. Enough. I asked a question up there, says Fahad Malik. Fahad, I'm sorry. They got me with the Spanish. Shannon Lopez says, aquí. Hola, Shannon. My son's name is Damien. Okay. I've messed with people now. Okay. Focus, guys. Come back. This is my fault. This is all my fault. Okay. Fahad asked the question up there. Fahad. I can't find you, mate. Just type it out again, please. I can't find it. Sorry about that. Okay, ask me a psychology question. I'll be sensible now. Jessica says, moo. It sounds wonderful. I took ayahuasca last year. Was it the year before? It's probably the year before. It's probably before the pandemic, just before the thing. And afterwards, it was in Geneva, and I was walking down a mountain, and I'd been in a school, primary school. The kids were away, and it was full of adults having a weird drug experience. And I met some cows on the way down, and still a little bit high from the ayahuasca. And the cows were looking at me and saying moo. And I was like, one went moo, and then the other one looked up to see where she was looking, and she went moo. And I was like, damn, they're different moos. You guys speak, these moos mean something. These things are smart, like dogs are smart. You know, dogs have different expressions and different behaviors for different contexts. And it was a sad moment for me. Those poor imprisoned cows. I was still not in my right mind, of course. But moo is not moo. Moo, they're talking. They said moo means something. Any opinion on Roe versus Wade being overturned? Yeah, mate. Let's do that one. Any other distracting or mad? Should we do psychology stuff, guys? It's psychedelics, Spanish, narcissistic abuse, or CPTSD. That's it. I'm not getting into this. I am from the United Kingdom. We don't have this thing that you do, this furious, polarizing debate that you do in America. I'm not touching it. But thank you for asking your question. This has gone to pot now. Richard, what would you describe life as? God bless you. If I ever do a Richard Grannon Philosophy Channel live, I will answer your question for you. Could psychological disorders such as narcissism be stages of human development that's been interrupted by traumas experienced? They are, mate. They are. That's exactly Freud's. That would be that. Well, you don't want a history lesson on Freud. That is what they are. Psychological disorders such as narcissism. There is a narcissistic stage of human development that's been interrupted by traumas experienced. The answer to your question is yes. How did you guys? Did you like that for a fast answer? Did you like that? That was neat. Bye. What is the challenge? Natalie, mi cuestión cuando este cerebro malo, tiempo finito, pueden división con gente su mujer. Was that Google Translate? Because that is junk. That ain't Spanish. That's Google Translatorio. I don't know what that means. Just ask it in English. Damien Lopez with the $20. Gracias. If I feel healthy, is detrimental for me to engage in the predator cult society I grew up in to help others? Yeah, don't go to predator cult societies. No, don't. Stay away from them. Were you in a cult? Stay away from that. Or do I cut my losses and go to keep my health? Absolutely don't. No cults, man. Stay away from that. 100%. 100%. Don't feel obliged to go back. Para Woman Radio says, what is the 30-day challenge, or isn't there one? Yeah, we talked about that for the first 15 minutes of this live. As soon as I end, it will re-upload, and you can watch that. The in essence, the 30-day challenge is a 30-day course and support to help you overcome codependency. And if you want to join us for that, it's available on richardgrannon.com. But probably best if when this live ends, because I'm live right now. This is real. This moment is real. And then you'll watch it back in the future. I can't think like that. It brings on acid flashbacks. I'm joking. It doesn't. You already asked that. Okay. Natalie asks, I asked, when do you think this bad time will end and people will find less division mentality? Well, that's probably a better question for the philosophy channel, because that's going to lead me into like a 20-minute pontification. I like that question though. It's Kali Yuga, so you know, it's just kind of the way it is right now. Is Kali Yuga, baby. So is psychology an attempt to reintegrate the self despite the trauma? It's not my place to try and even begin to tell you what psychology is right here and right now. Psychology as an industry, psychology as an academic institution, the psychologists who work for governments. Psychology is a very, very, very broad subject. off the top of my head, I can't think of a broader one because it's so vague. Like it includes so much stuff. So yeah. Joseph Gilbert, does one ever completely overcome codependency? I don't know. I'll let you know if I ever do. I really don't. And then how would I know? Because how would I know that I had better than I would have done if I'd been raised in like a stable, loving, safe environment? So can you make therapeutic progress? Hell yeah. Can you be less of a doormat over time? Yes, I've lived that. I can tell you 100% yes. Can you make decisions that are self-serving without crushing feelings of guilt and anxiety? Yes, but it's hard, you know, it takes time. When did psychology thanks, visceral. When did psychology lose touch with exploring the psyche or soul? It was January the 3rd at 3 p.m. Zurich time, 1931. Yeah, everybody knows that. I'm surprised I didn't know that, mate. I don't know. When did it stop exploring the soul? 1890, probably. I could probably back 1890 to 1895 because some clever people saw that there was real money in this. At the end of religion, there was then a desire for soul searching and answers, and psychology seemed to, but didn't provide that. Why have I not plugged this in? Who made me not plug this in? Just sit there awkwardly while I deal with this. Sound off, video off, 30 seconds, meditate. Om Burubuvu Sva Tatsuretu Varenyum Bagure Vashadimai Yoyo Na Prachoriat. Like that. Did you get it? Can you hear me? I felt my whole body vibrate during your song. You have healing in your voice. Signature, brother. Yes. Well, what do you think about Justin Trudeau? Well, he should have cleaned up his damn room. He's a fascist. Okay. Hi, Richard. Question, says Sweet Sacred Bliss. Can you please speak on covert narc mother, an ongoing unhealthy relationship into adulthood? Can I speak on it? This is weird. That's an American expression that I got from like stand-up comedy and podcasts. Speak on it, like riff on it. Covert narcissistic mother, like a vulnerable, fragile. It's vulnerable, fragile narcissism. In a mother, what would that manifest as? It might manifest slightly different in a son or a daughter, but largely it's going to involve a lot of guilt tripping, a lot of being the biggest victim in the room, and a lot of shifting the topic of conversation back to her sacrifices and everything she ever did for you. If you say, Mom, this hurts, she'll be like, I'm sure it does, but not like the time it did when I was 22, and so on and so forth. So the child, you are the child in the adult body, will feel really unheard, really. Then you'll play out. What will happen is, because our parents' way of loving us is our way of loving ourselves, you probably won't respect your own boundaries. You won't demand that other people respect your boundaries. You won't. You won't be good at processing what it is that you need, and then you'll find it very hard to ask for what you need because you're not processing what it is that you need. Om Krim Kalikahe Namaha. Yeah, talk about audience capture in relation to Jordan. Audience capture? What's that? Sometimes I take an audience, and they don't want to listen, and I say, well, I caught you, and you're captured, and you're all going to clean each other's damn rooms. What about that, Bucko? I don't know what that is. So if you I have them end in a question mark, that's always nice. Okie dokie. Do you think push pull is only from toxic people? Push pull, is that where you get? Well, you mean where you're getting mixed signals? Um, is it toxic? I mean, what does toxic mean now? We use that adjective a lot. It's like, when journalists used to say, "This is like the other thing, but on acid," and then it was, "This is like the other thing, but on steroids," and then everything became toxic this and toxic that. So how can we clean that up so it's easier for us to think about? Toxic. What do people usually mean when they say toxic? I think when people say toxic, they usually mean maybe selfish, boundary breaking, not respectful of other people's boundaries. That's probably enough, isn't it? Selfish and not respectful of other people's boundaries. Exploitative. Maybe a little bullying, maybe a little vain, something like that, yeah? Would that only happen, would push pull only happen with people who don't respect other people's boundaries? Hmm. Well, here we go. I have something useful to say. Incredible. I thought it was just going to be waffle and silly voices for the rest of this. And now I have something useful to say. Amazing. Intentionality. You experience it as push pull, and you experience it as therefore what I hear, and I could be wrong. This is kind of like a manipulation tactic. But maybe that person is going through something and they are going hot and cold. Like they are genuinely very interested in you, and then genuinely they're just not as interested in you. It would be nice if they cycled through that just 2 times and then sorted themselves out, because you can't keep doing that to somebody. That ain't cool. That really isn't. You would have to say to the person, or you'd have to say to them, "Oh, this is because something else is going on in my life," or I don't know if this is a relationship, or what the context is, but they should control it. But what if they're really unconscious? Well, if somebody's really unconscious and their behavior is hurting you, whether they're intentional or not, you would be better off getting rid of them. You'd be better off just giving up and just finding someone else. There's so many people in the world. There's so many people in the world. And there's so many lovely, kind, good people in the world. Probably way more than the terrible twats that are out there. But lovely, kind, and not aggressive. And they don't bang drums, and they don't shout, and they don't scream, and they're not hysterical, and they don't run governments, and they don't run corporations, and they don't make the rules, and they don't set the tone, and they don't set the atmosphere. What am I talking about? Something. Push pull. Yeah. If I see that in somebody, I wouldn't necessarily go, "That's a toxic person." I would just be like, I wouldn't even say that's a toxic trait. I just go, well, what would I do, as though it's in some conditional reality that I don't live in. I can tell you personally what I do. I just sack them off. If it's a friend I've known for a long time and they're doing that and they're blowing hot and cold, I don't have friends who blow hot and cold. I really, really, really don't. The last friend I had who blew hot and cold with me and was doing push pull with me, I just let go of. He'd been a naughty boy, and a lot of people had fallen out with him for about 20 years. And I remained loyal. I stood by him, and then I was like the last domino. Seriously, for about a group of 25 of us, because I really liked him, and he was funny, and he was super smart, but he was just a prick. I mean, and in his heart, he just. I don't mind people who are pricks. I don't mind if you've got an attitude on you, or you're a snob, or you're a bit off. I quite like that in people. I find it quite charming. But but there has to be, beneath the facade and the performance, there has to be some human warmth, and there has to be a boundary, a moral boundary that you wouldn't go beyond. And I just didn't think he had one. So I just abandoned it. I didn't say anything. I didn't make a song and a dance or give him a big speech. I just stopped hanging out with him. I just pulled away. If it was a potential partner, which is totally in the dating scene, it's totally normal. It's not toxic. It's not. It can't be described as toxic if everybody's doing it. Everybody's push pull because they're when someone's talking to me or they're talking to you or her or him or they or Z or Z, whoever they're talking to, they're cycling through other options at the same time, but at a very rapid rate. And so, yeah, people blow hot and cold like all the time. One more thing on this. Sometimes we really need to accept when people just aren't that into us. That sucks for the ego, but that can explain an awful lot of behavior. Like if somebody liked me, I should feel they're moving towards me. If they're sort of moving towards me and pulling away, moving towards me and pulling away, unless they're being coquettish and flirtatious and playing some sort of game, which again, I've never really lived that. I'm not the kind of guy that goes that like people do that with. Maybe it's me, but generally speaking, everything is pretty straight. I don't have messy people in my life like that, and I don't think you should either. I think I answered it. Bonnie lassie, will ye gang? Eric Chance, have you ever had someone follow you all around the internet? Is that a joke? Do you know what I do? Do you know how long I've been doing this? Someone, singular, mate. Yeah, I have some folks who will not stop, who've literally been going for years. How do you stay sober with addiction, codependency issues while in an arc relationship? Well, at the end of my last abusive relationship, I didn't stay sober, much to my lament, because it made things an awful lot worse, much worse. I should have gone cold turkey on her and then not dealt with anything else, but because I'll share with you. Let's share. I tried to send her away from me because she was really awful and she threatened to kill herself. And so I was trapped because I really believed there was a greater than 80% chance that she would do it. So then I was stuck for a period of time living in the same physical space as somebody who had done something awful to me, laboring under the belief that if I did the adult thing and made her go away, that she would become a tragic story and break my heart and the hearts of her family members. And so in that situation, I began to drink. And then some naughty little demon came out of the woodwork and offered me some cocaine. And then before you knew it, I was doing that again. So emotional dysregulation and boundary breaks can lead to negative coping mechanisms, of course. The key is to get help, whatever that help comes in the form of, preferably professional help from somebody who doesn't know you, who you're paying to do a job, which is to review the contents of your life from a position of expertise and experience and tell you which direction to go in. There are things here, based on this one short question, that I can see that you need to let go of. What your brain is saying, it's going to be more pain letting go of the person and of the things you're using, the things you're addicted to, than just staying. And maybe it will be extraordinarily painful, but staying is a slow death. You have no chance if you stay. You have some chance if you leave. Yeah. I hope that was useful. Best of luck to you. I have glasses and I don't use them and I squint. Do you have to be in a relationship? Do you have to be in a relationship to heal attachment issues? No. Who told you that? Relationships are of zero use for healing anything. They're not magic. They don't do anything. They're just people. You're just around a person, a human who's the same as you. They're as messed up as you are. They're as confused as you are. They're as frightened as you are. Relationships don't heal anything ever. I don't know who's told you that, Annie, but they're very irresponsible and they're naughty, and they probably need an uppercut to the chin. Yeah. When you're not in a relationship, you're not triggered, so there's nothing to be work on. That's not true, is it? Don't be naughty and say not true things. When you're not in a relationship, that's the time to work on your issues. Don't get in a relationship to try and overcome your issues. That's a really poor idea. You're not the first person I've heard that. There was a lady in Southern California who I coached. The last time I did coaching, I don't see people as one-to-one clients. This was back in 2017. I think they were the last 10 people I ever saw. And they were all Californian. No, they weren't. They were all American, which was a trauma that I still haven't gotten over, I can tell you. Then I had to coach some Americans. There, my dear, everything will be okay. How did it make you feel? Used and dirty. Oh, really? I'm joking. I like Americans very much. What are you asking me? Oh yeah, you don't need to be in a relationship. You don't need to be in a relationship to heal attachment issues or any other issue. Relationships are not a pathway to healing. That's not what they're for. They have no function at all. That's probably the right way to look at relationships, Just be like, there's no function in a relationship. It just is what it is. It really doesn't lead to anything. Well, apart from the most base fundamentals, where if you marry somebody who's very rich, it leads to money. That's it. They're not for anything. They just are the thing that they are. So, ladies and gents, remember we have a 30-day challenge. If you want to jump on that 30-day challenge, the sale for that ends on Friday, and we begin on Saturday. And it is for people seeking to overcome narcissistic abuse and codependency issues. And if you want to join us on the 30-day challenge, you must go to richardgrannon.com. Question: have you ever been in a healthy relationship? What do you think a healthy relationship is in the age that we're living through now? Can men and women have healthy heterosexual relationships if, say, for example, there were an ideology in the air that caused one to hate the other? I've had okay relationships. Most of my relationships have been okay. I calculated the other day. I've been with, sort of loosely speaking, relationships 12. Two of them were with people who were seriously mentally sick. And then another maybe 5 or 6 of them, they had mental health issues, but they weren't abusive. And then the rest of them were fine. They were just fine, just normal folk. Richard, what will the hours be? What hours? For what? The challenge, you do your exercises whenever you want. You could do them in the morning, or you could do them in the evening, or you could do a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the evening. Probably you're going to have to give up about 20 to 30 minutes a day to get through the exercises, though, I suspect. So do relationships have any type of purpose or benefit? They're not a tool. They have no function. They're not functional. They're non-functional. They are, the pleasure in the relationship is the relationship itself. There can be benefits. You could say, well, I'll get into this relationship because then I get sex, or then I get access to dad's yacht, or it gets me a better job, or I get access to his money or something. And of course you can do that. Nobody's going to stop you from doing that. It's not illegal. It's not a great way to live. And you've got to think about what that's doing to you and what that's doing to the other person. But I don't think of relationships in terms of purpose or benefit. I am a human being. I must connect with others. It feels good. It feels good. Is that a purpose or a benefit? I like to be a part of a community. I like to speak to people and then watch their little eyes light up when they tell me a story and they make me laugh, and maybe they can watch my little eyes light up when the same thing happens, because that's what we are. That's the animal that we are. We're built for relationships. We're attachment seeking machines. All this talk of purpose and benefit, it's a bit cold and psychopathic. We shouldn't be thinking like this. People are not things. They're just people. They're just bits of you. He's doing that weird psychedelic talk again. They're not other. They're you, man. It's all you. So when you use a person, you're using you. When you instrumentalize a person or utilize a person, you're utilizing and instrumentalizing yourself. It's extremely traumatic and very painful for both parties. Ultimately, um, relationships, because relationships aren't just sexual. Everything is a relationship. You have relationships with objects. You have, but predominantly with people. Unless it's stated that there's a purpose or a benefit, like you go into a person, you do a bit of work for them, and they give you money. That's a purpose or a benefit. That's a relationship, I guess. That's a purpose-based, explicit relationship, typically with a legally binding contract. In my personal opinion, says Roberta, it's better to be cold and alive than warm and dead. How would you be warm and dead? How? I froze my butt off this winter, but thank God for my little van. Yes. April says, what do you suggest for anxiety from the inner critic, even though you've asked for what you need, set boundaries and follow through with them? I don't. You're saying that. You're saying like that, like these are my answers to the inner critic. But I already asked for what I need. I already set boundaries and I followed through with my boundaries. Is that Richard's method for dealing with the inner critic? Is it? Doesn't sound like mine. Doesn't sound like mine at all. If you want to know what my method for dealing with the inner critic is, I have a course for you and it's completely free. It's available on YouTube. It's called Fortress Mental Health Protection System. It's set at the level, there's no swearing in it, unbelievably. And it's set at like the level that an intelligent 16-year-old will understand. There's also no psychoanalytic jargon in it. And you can get through it in about 2 or 3 hours probably. And it would tell you what my answer would be to this. Not just my answer, but Pete Walker's answer. Because Pete Walker, the author of CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving, also contributed on that course a little bit by email with some really, really good information. Richard Grannon Philosophy is also on YouTube. Yes, it is. So is Richard Grannon and Friends, where I'm doing podcasts, where I'm having conversations with people and talking about things. Go there if you want to. This is why the purification ramps up after the ceremony, even if you have lived together. Luciana, Richard, I live in Brazil. Boa noite. Bom dia. It'll be bon dia for you. Bon dia. Here, the mother is like a religion, a myth. How can we overcome the guilt of living fully after having a narcissistic mother? That would be a perfect example of how overcoming narcissistic abuse requires overcoming the codependency that narcissistic abuse can breed, that externalized locus of control. So what having a very strongly dominant narcissistic mother does is it keeps you in child mode and it keeps you trapped in shadow. So you would have to actually grow up, which would be, it's tough. It takes a long time. It takes a really, really long time. There's the course that I have that's coming out that helps you to overcome codependency, 30-day challenge. And there's another course coming out probably in about 2 weeks' time on overcoming narcissistic abuse. That specifically helps people, in this course, specifically helps people to overcome narcissistic abusive relationships with partners, romantic partners, and with family members, and in an employment setting as well. Hey, coach. Hi. Is the new upcoming challenge about the same content as the last in January? It's exactly the same content. The videos are exactly the same. Alexander says, what is the link between emotionally oversharing and codependency? What's a person doing? Forget about codependency for a second. Forget about pre-existing models. What is a person? Think like a psychologist. All of you, think. What is a person doing when they are oversharing? What is the function of their oversharing? And what is the story that they're living that means that they overshare? Probably they're anxious. Probably they have weak external and internal boundaries, because oversharing is a lack of self respect. It's a lack of understanding of our internal boundaries. And it's a lack of respect and awareness of other people's boundaries, because other people don't want to know that stuff. I've known many oversharers who were a little bit on the BPD spectrum who get so upset and so angry and so hurt when they would overshare, and then the people wouldn't reciprocate, or they'd find that they rejected them, or they looked at them like a weirdo afterwards. And this is where I think Marsha Linehan's DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, is awesome, because it teaches this Buddhist style detachment and compassion and self awareness, which is all useful in this scenario. We say, okay, wait, detachment. Look at this as a system. You know, they've come to you for a communication, and you've dumped a load of information on them that didn't really ask for. Some of it is quite provocative, it's sexual, or it's disturbing, or it's violent, or it's like, it's a lot, man. It's a lot to take on. It's deeply personal stuff. And you don't know them like that. Self-awareness would be, are you aware that you're doing this? Are you aware when it happens? Are you aware of the emotional state that you go into before it happens? And compassion. Compassion for yourself and compassion for the other. Compassion for yourself is, wow, there's a pattern of behavior I'm doing right here. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm self-aware, I'm detached, and I'm compassionate. And I'm like, okay, something I'm trying to get done here. I'm probably trying to form attachments with people. Maybe I feel really lonely and misunderstood and unheard and unseen. And I desperately want to be heard, and I desperately want to be seen. Wow, where's that come from? Probably from childhood trauma. Okay, got it. Compassion for the other. This person doesn't care about me. Well, compassion for the other. No, they're an adult, just like me. They have trauma. They have pain. They have bills to pay. They have stuff to do. They didn't show up to this Dungeons and Dragons meeting to hear about, my sexual fetishes or my drug addiction, or some weird oversharing, inappropriate thing. They just came to play Dungeons and Dragons or bridge or drink a coffee, or whatever the context, or go to work, or go take the train, or whatever the context is where the conversation takes place. The compassion goes both ways. Codependency here, yes, if you by that you mean the emotionally dysregulated, highly anxious, parentified, emotional incest suffering at the hand of a narcissistic parent style, where the person is trying to resolve that issue from childhood by giving too much of themselves to other people. It's just not appropriate. Annie says, how can we work on CPTSD when the trigger is inaccessible? Annie, you don't need the trigger to be accessible. These are, you were asking me questions like I've said stuff that I haven't said. This sounds like stuff from somebody else's way of doing CPTSD. I strongly recommend, again, the Fortress Mental Health Protection System. It's on YouTube. It's completely free, and it will change the way you look at CPTSD. You then go on to ask, how can we work on flashbacks that only appear when you're attached? You don't have an attachment. Relationship equals dysregulation. This is just, let me see, what's a good way of saying this? This is, um, there are multiple models for looking at the world. There are multiple maps for looking at any situation. Some are better than others. Some are more efficient than others. Some lead to better outcomes than others do. And I like to always be open to different ways of viewing situations, because say if I'm in a situation and it hurts, and sometimes life hurts, sometimes my pattern of life hurts, it's depressing, or it doesn't feel good, or I don't feel like I'm on my purpose, and I'm not motivated, I'm not enthusiastic, I'm losing my energy. And I'll be like, okay, something's up here. For me, like personally, the way I deal with it, I'm like, what model am I operating from right now? What do I think my life is where, and because everything is down to in my opinion, the core beliefs. What do I believe to be true about me or my life or about how people should live that would perpetuate this unpleasant cycle that I'm in right now? And then I like to explore other people's way of looking at things. If you have a problem and it's not healing and you've tried to heal it or get success with it or move it forward and it hasn't, based on the model that you've got now, it might be time to let go of that model and try out. You could still not let go of it forever. You could just be like, I really like this map that I have of the problem, but I am going to put it down for 1 second. I'm going to try and look at it like this and just get that little bit of flexibility to see things from a different point of view. It can really, really help. It can really, really help sometimes. Yeah. Potent the Rockstar is here. Hi, Po. Uh, Vidya says, coming from a nurtured childhood, can one become codependent or have personality disorder by living with narcissistic abuse in marriage for 20 years? You could become deeply traumatized. Yes, you could develop a PD. I don't know what PD you're talking about. And yes, it would generate codependent patterns of behavior after 20 years. Yes, I think that's reasonable. Angie says, I have BPD. I'm not a bad person, but do you see people with BPD bad? Um, it's not in psychology, and these are psychology terms that we're using. Uh, Usually you wouldn't say, oh, this is good or this is bad. Obviously, individual psychologists have their personal opinion, but psychology wouldn't say it as good or bad. It just is what it is. There's a pattern of response um, that's playing out. And I would always say, like, if I'm trying to help a client and I see them as being on the BPD spectrum, is it useful for me to see them as bad? No. Is it going to help me to do my job? No. Is it going to help the client? No. If they've done something that I can't get past and they've told me about it, which has happened once, I once treated a male client who'd been diagnosed with BPD who told me a story that was tantamount to emotional abuse of his child. And I just couldn't be past it. And I just had to not work with him. And we're talking about literally hundreds of clients, hundreds and hundreds of clients. It's happened once. So no, it wouldn't. It's not really a thing for me. My experience of working with clients with BPD is that if they really have BPD, they're not just on a spectrum for BPD. They're not just emotionally dysregulated or having CPTSD. Is ultimately the therapeutic process breaks down because that's the nature of their disorder. It requires specialists. You have to be a qualified, in my opinion. If somebody, I wouldn't take on a client who was absolutely diagnosed with clinical BPD at all. If I detect BPD in the early stages and it's full BPD, I would just, well, for years now, I've had checks and balances in place where people with BPD wouldn't get to me anyway because I know what to look for before the counseling session starts. But in the beginning, where I bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in 2014, 2015 was delivering coaching for people who were the victims of narcissistic abuse, I had a ton of clients who came through who really had BPD. They're impossible to work with. But that doesn't make them bad. It just means that for me, they're impossible to work with. Maybe if they go through the Marsha Linehan methodology, or go to somebody who's DBT trained, who knows exactly what to expect and exactly what to look for, they may get a completely different result. I mean, they've had good results with DBT. So no, bad doesn't really come into it. I can either work with somebody or I can't. Any questions with a question mark? We have a user called Naked HD XYZ. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to block that person. They might be a good person, but I suspect that that's spam. Okay. Spatula says, by the way, you once told that in reality people are fragile, no matter how they act. I started to look at people in a different way after that, and it slightly helped with dealing with people in everyday life. Yes, my philosophy on that is the baseline state of human beings is fragility, and we should remember just how chaotic and fragile and vulnerable people feel. It definitely helps. It definitely helps to put them in the appropriate sort of context of life when you're dealing with people from that point of view. Anyway, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad that you found it helpful. Um, okay, so I've gone for an hour and 20 minutes. I think it's time that this should draw to a close. The new 30-day challenge is available now. It has the same content from the one in January. If you attempted the one in January and you'd like to have another go of it now, if you think you're in a different place, you're welcome to do so. If you want to sign up, it's available on richardgrannon.com. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you all. Your questions has ever been interesting and provocative, and I enjoy trying to wrestle through them. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I look forward to speaking to you all again very soon. Please hit the like button. Give it a like. YouTube likes. It feeds on digital love like some sort of dark malloc.